Precious about that money.
Secret Santa.
I know.
You trust him.
He says, if you want me to do it, and I says, no, you've got to keep the continuity on. It's not fair just because I'm not on.
Can he hold his wish, though?
This is it. Can he be trusted? You know him better than me. Can he be trusted? Can he? Can he? Is he be asking him? Go on, give us a
No, you'll be all right. He'll be no
You
clues.
think so?
Anyway, clues are no good. Clues are bad. Because what happens is then, and people disregard guesses. So you're guessing twice, right? You're guessing the clue and then guessing the answer. So I don't know if cute clues are actually a good idea.
All right, then.
That's just like what I think. All right, take care of yourself.
You have a good show, right?
All right, bye-bye, Lee. See you Monday. Have a lovely longer weekend. Right, 9:minute. Let's get a news update before we get the show started. And it's over to Donna Marie Doherty.
Thanks, Greg. Good morning. Investigations are underway in Sligo following the death of a woman who was hit by a train yesterday afternoon. Her body has been removed to Sligo University Hospital, where a post-mortem is expected to take place. Aoife Cairns is at the scene.
Jessica McLaughlin was killed in the incident near Ballysadare, County Sligo at around 4 o'clock yesterday. It's understood she was walking on the tracks with a woman who's believed to be her niece at the time. The second woman, who's in her 20s, was also struck by the train and is being treated in hospital for serious injuries. Jessica McLaughlin's body was removed from the scene late last night following a forensic examination. 3 investigations will be carried out, one by Gardaí, one by Irish Rail, as well as the Rail Accident Investigation Unit. Services resumed this morning and the track has since reopened. Aoife Cairns in Ballysadare, County Sligo.
Food prices are unlikely to fall to where they were before high inflation took hold. It's because the pressure of legislation, regulation and innovation on Irish farmland. A report carried out by KPMG for the Farmers Journal has found farm production here is at an all-time low, with falling numbers of both farmers and farms. The report found that while Donegal accounts for the most sheep farming in Ireland, the county holds the lowest percentage of farmland nationally at 39%. Irish Farmers Journal agribusiness editor Lorcan Rosh Kelly says the outlook for food prices is that they will remain high.
It is unlikely, I think, because the global demand, the number of people in the world is going up, global demand for food is going up. Ireland will be producing less food, but the competitiveness of the international markets is going to be high. Ireland won't be able to overproduce in order to meet the demand at home and internationally. So something's going to have to give. It's unlikely that prices will be falling rapidly because the demand is going to be globally, is going to support prices.
The British Prime Ministers avoided questions this morning about the report into Boris Johnson's statements after the UK Parliament over Partygate. It's out shortly and is expected to conclude that the former PM did deliberately mislead the House of Commons when he denied lockdown rules were broken in Number 10. He's accused the UK Privileges Committee of conducting a witch hunt. However, Rishi Sunak says was not saying too much on the issue this morning.
You're talking about a report that I haven't seen, no one has seen yet. It wouldn't be right to comment on it before that's happened. And these are matters for the House of Commons, and Parliament will deal with them in the normal way that it does.
And finally, today marks Clean Air Day. The slogan for this year's campaign is Clean Up Our Air to Look After Your Mind. Derry City and Strabane District Council's environmental health team are aiming to raise awareness about the importance of good air quality and the impact it has on the public health. Mayor Councillor Patricia Logues is urging people to use the day to learn more about how their actions can have an impact on air pollution levels. She says air pollution impacts every organ in the body and is the biggest environmental threat to health and well-being. To weather for today, it will be very warm with sunny spells, hazy at times, highest temperatures of 23 to 26 degrees and a light to moderate south to southeast wind. That's all for now. I'll be back again at 10 o'clock with the next news update. Until then, good morning.
Meet BYD. Meet the biggest car brand you've never heard of. BYD, an introduction 28 years in the making. 28 years of relentless innovation in battery technology. Building 100% electric cars like the Atto 3. Now available in Ireland.
The county's #1 talk show, The 9 till Noon Show on Highland Radio. And now, it's time for the talk of the Northwest, The 9 till Noon Show with Greg Hughes on Highland Radio.
Good morning to you. 5 minutes past 9, Thursday the 15th of June. You're very welcome along to the 9 till Noon Show here on Highland Radio, and we've got so much lined up for you. We're going to be previewing the rally with Oisín Kelly. Interesting to see a few stages down the south of the county. County as well. Some brilliant routes down there. We've got some live music for you. We're going to give you away €100 quiz. We've made some tweaks to it for Thursday. One of you is going to win a €100 One for All voucher, and then we're going to keep you across all the main stories of the day. So it is a true magazine show. There's something for everyone out there. So get involved, have your say, pass on your stories, your positive experiences, whatever you want to talk about, really. 086 60 25,000, 086 60 25,000. The WhatsApp and text number is now open. Give us a call on 07491 25,000. Caroline taking your calls. Neve on the show as well, of course. And if you want to email, it's comments@highlandradio.com. Right, okay. We've a lot to get through, as I mentioned, so let's get through, or let's have a look at the front and inside some of the newspapers today. And if anything, as we go through this, is something that you want to comment on, feel free to just take your phone out and drop that text. The Donegal news. Rally fans arriving in the county ahead of this weekend's Donegal International Rally are being warned to expect a zero-tolerance approach from Gardaí, who'll be out in force over the 3 days. The Garda operation will be boosted by the presence of the Garda Air Support Helicopter. While it's been confirmed that Letterkenny District Court will sit this weekend, if required, 3 sittings they have available to them, we were told on the Garda information item on Tuesday. And with thousands of visitors gathering for the eagerly anticipated event, local hosteleries and hotels have long been booked out with accommodation at a premium. Donegal County Council's newly appointed road safety officer, Chris Harley, has appealed to rally fans to stay safe. We appeal to all rally fans to be cautious, use the road responsibly and be courteous to all road users. On to the Donegal Democrat this morning, and sexual crime and domestic incidents in Donegal are on the rise. An Garda Síochána's Divisional Protective Service unit in Donegal currently has 177 open investigations. That's about 1 in every 1,000 people, which is really quite remarkable, isn't it? A rate of 1 in 1,000, not far off it. So far in 2023, there have been 54 instances of sexual crime reported in Donegal. There have also been 411 domestic instances raised this year. They're getting up to 2 to 3 cases per 1,000 people there. Again, just when you look at it like that, it's the numbers are high, aren't they? The specialised DPSU investigates sexual crime, domestic abuse, child sexual exploitation, incidents of child neglect and human trafficking. The unit was established in 2020 and is based out of Letterkenny Garda Station under the direction of Detective Inspector Siobhan Mullihan. Let's get on to the Tyrconnell Tribune now, and you may have seen videos of young people fighting in Milford. They were circulating, as these things tend to do, across social media now, WhatsApp and other platforms. It's covered in the front of the Tyrconnell Tribune today. Garda sources have confirmed they are investigating an alleged assault in the Convent Road area of Milford last Thursday. Garda sources were responding to a query from the Tribune seeking clarification on much more serious flash fights elsewhere in the town some hours earlier involving numbers of teenaged girls. The matter was raised with the paper by local residents who said what happened was dangerous and disgraceful and could have had much more serious consequences. In all, 3 instances were filmed on mobile phones. Teenagers caught on camera trading punches, legs and knees flailing and kicking, hair and fists flying as they attempted to overcome one another in what were described as violent scenes of assault in public places. And there was some there that weren't teenagers as well. It needs to be put to an end. Awfully distressing that for the young people, whether you're perhaps even arguably the aggressor, but particularly if you're the victim, heading into next school term with that hanging over you, wondering if it's going to happen again. It's a horrible way to go to school. Everyone has to work together to stamp that out, to get rid of it. It's very disruptive to the young people and to the local community. The Derry News now. A decision to arrest a Derry woman on the suspicion of organised crime has been condemned. Earlier this week, a 27-year-old was arrested by officers from the PSNI's paramilitary crime task force. The PSNI said the woman had been arrested on suspicion of being concerned in the supply of a Class B controlled drug as part of a proactive investigation linked to the INLA. The woman's solicitor, Kieran Shields of Madden and Finucane, condemned the operation, which is kind of almost unique to this part of the world. You just don't see that in another city in Ireland, do you, where you'd have a solicitor releasing press releases off the back of arrests. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. It's just kind of not something you generally see too often elsewhere, but it is something you do see with some regularity here in the Northwest. Interesting story in the Irish Independent this morning. Explosive claims of Garda collusion in the distribution of drugs have been made in the High Court. A judge has heard allegations that a number of Gardaí supervised the importation of drugs and controlled the flow of shipments to dealers. A detective sergeant who later rose to a senior rank and is now retired was identified in an affidavit as being centrally involved. The affidavit was sworn by a person claiming to have worked in the drugs trade under the supervision and instruction of An Garda Síochána, who controlled what drugs got to what dealers. Details of the allegations, which relate to the period between 1997 and 2014, were outlined in a ruling in which a judge allowed an affidavit to be admitted in a civil action against the Garda Commissioner by Jack Doyle, a former Garda stationed in Blarney, County Cork, who claims he was forced to retire after raising his concerns. Shocking story there. Not great news in the latest opinions polls for either Sinn Féin or Fine Gael, though Sinn Féin are in a position, I think, more to have a fluctuation than perhaps Fine Gael are. Support for Fine Gael and for Sinn Féin is slumped, while Fianna Fáil and the Social Democrats both see a boost in the latest Irish Times Ipsos opinion poll. Taoiseach Leo Varadkar also sees his personal rating fall sharply in a poll that's unlikely to ease nerves in Fine Gael. Now, at the weekend, there was a coordinated effort from within Fine Gael to get 3 negative stories on the front pages of 3 Sunday papers, and of course the media duly obliged. There was a parliamentary party meeting last night, which I would say was pretty tense. But anyway, it all is a little bit convenient, isn't it, that you have these hit pieces from within Fine Gael on the front of the papers, and now just a couple of short days later, you have this opinion poll which shows a fall in support for Fine Gael. I am quite sure that they would have had an indication, perhaps as far back as last Sunday, we'll see, where this poll was going. So the knives are certainly out for Leo Varadkar. Why do you think that he personally has lost 6 points in terms of satisfaction with him? He's still relatively high. He's not far behind Micheál Martin, well ahead of Eamon Ryan. But anyway, what do you think is going on there? Well, the findings come against the background of calls for tax cuts in the next budget to senior Fine Gael figures, including the Taoiseach, and amid continuing pressure in housing, health and the cost of living. Sinn Féin maintains a substantial lead over its rivals and remains the most popular party by some distance. However, party support has fallen to its lowest level in 2 years. So let's run through the figures here. Sinn Féin 31%, Fine Gael 18%, Fianna Fáil 21%, the Green Party 4%. So again, just to be absolutely clear where we're at here, if you add the current government parties together, you get 43% support, which is ahead of Sinn Féin's 31%, though of course they would coalesce with another party to get into government, at least one other party. So the Green Party are at 4%. They just sit there, don't they? They just sit there 1 point above the margin of error. They've always been there. 5, I think 6 is the highest I've ever seen. They would just sit there at 4% and are influential in government, which is proportional representation for you. Labour at 4%, again, they just sit there stagnant. The Social Democrats, 5%, they're up 3%. And they had a leadership change, so maybe that's reflected in this poll, though it wasn't reflected in the last one. Independent and others have 17%, which is kind of low when you think about it. We don't really analyse that too much. There's not a great deal of support for non-party politics, really, is there? When independents and others, which is Ain't To and which are a party, of course, and a few others, they just sit around about 17%. Okay, we have a more positive page in the Irish Daily Mail for Leo Varadkar, because he says, I can turn Fine Gael around. The Irish Daily Mail. The Taoiseach laid down the gauntlet to any potential Fine Gael leadership challenger last night, telling them to talk to his face and not to the media. At a private meeting with Fine Gael TDs and senators, Leo Varadkar said he was always available to address any discontent within the party directly. It comes after 3 Sunday newspapers reported that there was dissatisfaction within the party over Mr Varadkar's stewardship, which it was claimed is no longer secure. The coordinated articles were described by one TD at the meeting as treachery. Fine Gael sources described the contribution from the Taoiseach as defiant. He made the point that he had seen what was in the papers on Sunday, and if anyone had things to say about the party's performance, they could say it directly to him, said one source at the meeting. But they don't want him to turn things around. They don't want him to approve things. Whoever is behind these hit pieces, they want him out. So they chop him down, chop, 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 to the point whereby he has to come out and protest that he will lead the party going forward. And then there's another stage then when the knives really start to come out. The Irish Farmers Journal this morning, Minister for Agriculture Charlie McConalogue, a good friend of this show, has been given the green light to roll out a new €28 million beef welfare scheme aimed at suckler farmers. The Department of Public Expenditure and Reform cleared the $28 million funding required to replace the BEEP-S scheme on Monday. The Irish Farmers Journal understands an IBR herd testing programme and meal feeding pre- and post-weaning will be among the requirements of the scheme. Right, let us go to that sad story that's coming out of Sligo. And I think it's worth pointing out, if you don't mind if I do, that sometimes it's best to wait till you know the facts of a story before running it. And it was the so-called mainstream media that is supposed to be the reliable source of information that rushed out the news that it was two young people that were involved in this tragedy, which was incorrect information. And as I say, it's better not to be first, but to be accurate. And some were. The likes of Ocean FM, in fairness to them, they held off until they had the information, whilst national journalists were tweeting the fact that it was two young people in terms of teenagers, both are young. But this is the sad story in all the papers this morning. A woman died after she and her young niece was struck by a train in a horror collision in Sligo. Jessica McLaughlin, who has been named locally, was in her 40s and passed away after she was struck by an Irish rail train at Ballisodare yesterday afternoon. Her niece, Rebecca, who's in her 20s, was also knocked down and was brought to hospital, where her condition was last night described as very serious. It's understood that both Jessica and Rebecca, who are from Sligo town, were out walking on the tracks when they suddenly saw the train coming and attempted to jump clear in time. However, tragically, the pair were both hit by the oncoming service, which was bound for Connolly Station in Dublin. And the driver did try to make them aware, reports this morning. And a horrific incident, not for the people involved, obviously, their families, but the train driver, the rest of the staff on the train, and the responders, the first responders there. An awful tragedy. The Sun tells us that Pope Francis is due to be released from hospital in the next few days after a 3-hour operation. The pontiff, who's 86, had surgery to repair an abdominal hernia. Medics said it went well and are waiting for a mesh prosthetic to settle and attach properly. The Pope did not say his public noon prayer from the hospital balcony last Sunday to avoid having to stand for too long. His public and private audiences have been cancelled until this Sunday. A Vatican spokesperson said the Holy Father rested well. The medical team reports the recovery is proceeding without complications and are planning to discharge him in the next few days. The Pope, who traditionally takes all of July off, is due to visit Portugal in early August and then Mongolia. So the timing of the operation is good. I suppose it gives him more chance to recover. Now, lots of you are interested in the hate speech laws. There was some discussion in the Dáil yesterday. New hate speech laws will not, we're told, prevent people from expressing views, opinions or facts in artistic or political or cultural ways. That's according to Helen McEntee. The Justice Minister insisted yesterday the government is working to protect people from discrimination. She added, we're not preventing people from expressing views, expressing opinions, expressing facts, doing so for various different reasons, be it an artistic or political or cultural way. This is about the most extreme forms of where that language then turns into a hate crime. But who determines what's a fact? And we've seen over the last 3 or 4 years that can be really quite confusing. We had information that was factual being suppressed en masse by, say, social media, for an example. So who is the truth police? So if they insist that you will be able to express truth, by whose definition is it the truth? Do you know what I mean? Where's the narrative? Where's the leaning? This is about the most extreme forms of where that language then turns into a hate crime, she said. I don't believe this will have a chilling effect. I think those culture wars will continue no matter what you do. Okay, so that's just one side of it there from Helen McEntee. Just thought it interesting. But others still are not convinced with what she has to say. Rightio, back with our first guest in a moment.
The newspapers are courtesy of Kelly Centra Mountaintop Letterkenny, the 2022 C-Store National Off-Licence of the Year.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, offering low-rate car loans with fast approval. Apply online at letterkennycu.ie or in office today.
Attention movie enthusiasts. Eclipse Cinemas, Lifford, Strabane and Bundoran have a fantastic offer just for you. Up until the 18th of June, purchase a gift card in store and receive an amazing 10% extra value. It's the ideal present to celebrate the end of the school year or surprise your dad on Father's Day. Don't miss out on this incredible deal. Only at Eclipse Cinemas, Lifford, Strabane and Bundoran.
Rally fever is building in the northwest. Join Highland Radio for live coverage of the Donegal International Rally, on air and online at highlandradio.com, in association with Pulse Venue Letterkenny, your entertainment headquarters over Rally weekend, with the Whistling Donkeys, all folked up and one for the road, live on Rally Friday. Pay at the door.
We all want a world where everyone feels welcome and included, but where do we even start? How about right here at your local SuperValue? SuperValue's Pride Rainbow Laces are just €2 and are available to buy in-store now. Proceeds from the sale of the rainbow laces will go to support Belong To, a national organisation supporting LGBTQ+ young people across Ireland. Take action, lace up and wear with pride, because at SuperValue we believe community includes everyone.
Do you suffer from high cholesterol, menopause symptoms, digestive issues, anxiety, aches and pains, or a lack of energy? The highly trained team at the Natural Way Letterkenny can provide advice on natural remedies for a number of individual health issues. The Natural Way also has its own brand of herbal treatments to help fight fatigue, relieve digestive discomfort, maintain a healthy immune system, and alleviate common menopause symptoms. The Natural Way at Letterkenny Shopping Centre, your one-stop health shop.
Highland Radio Time Checks brought to you by Expressway. Ireland's national coach provider are inviting you to walk the Yellow Walk for 30 minutes on June the 21st. Sign up at grow.ie today. Expressway, bringing you the time at
9:23. An increasing number of school leaders are taking action to ensure a phone-free learning environment. At least 50 secondary schools are expected to be locking up students' devices in bespoke pouches after the summer. Each morning, students will be asked to put their devices into their personal pouch, which locks automatically when closed. Okay, Siobhan Foster is principal of De La Salle College in Churchtown and joins us on the programme now. Good morning, Siobhan.
Good morning, Greg. How are you?
I'm good. What's the policy at your school currently or going forward?
Yeah, well, we have, we want our school to be a phone-free learning environment. So basically, currently, the students, when they come into school, they're meant to turn the phone off before they come into the school yard, and then it stays off for the duration of the day. So that's basically the expectation. It's one of the school rules, and that is what we've been trying to implement over the last few years. And prior to, I suppose, the pandemic and the lockdown and the shift to online learning, there was very high compliance to that. And then the pandemic happened, and all of a sudden then the shift was that we asked all the students to put on their phones, put on their mobile devices, or to go online and to be taught remotely using their phones or whatever laptops they had at home. And that was fine, and it worked really, really well. And as you know, mobile phones, they serve many, many positive purposes. But what happened then was they came back into school and we were saying, right, time now, turn off those phones. You're not going to be using them again, during the school. So what we noticed, the first thing we noticed was the teachers reported to us just an increase in breaching of that rule, that there was more incidents occurring, and that was, eroding teacher tuition time, and it was also affecting the real positive relationships that students and teachers have developed over time. You know, there's nothing worse than having to tell a child in the middle of the class, turn it off, it's interrupting the class. You know that they're distracted, it's affecting their concentration. So we, certainly it was reported to me at staff meetings, and you'd even see it as well during break times. You'd have to approach students and say, listen, you can't have your phone out, it needs to be turned off, you're breaking school rules.
Yeah.
So that's what we certainly noticed, the difference between prior to the pandemic, when they actually, they knew they had to turn it off and all the rationale was given to them. But they got so used to it, I think, over those 2 years during the lockdown and during the pandemic, that it was much, much more difficult to them to adapt back to not having it out, or at least not having quick access to it,
Yeah, and of course, even if it was in a bag and on silent, a lot of young people now have the watch on, so they'd be getting the notifications in any case too, and it's distracting. This levels the playing field. It's a bit of a reset, and the difference here then, and are you going to employ these pouches, which effectively the student has the phone on their possession, but it renders it useless effectively until it's unlocked at the end of the school day?
Yeah, I mean, look, we want, I suppose what we did was we wanted to look at probably a more student, believe it or believe it not, a more student-friendly way of addressing this issue, because we had a number of assemblies with all of the school, each year in the school, and we were basically saying to the students, look, we gave them the rationale, by being distracted by your mobile phones is affecting you academically. We saw how it affects them socially. They're not, they don't communicate or chat as much with each other when they're on their phones. They don't engage in the extracurricular activities that are offered to them at lunchtime or break times because they want to try and find a place in the field or whatever to catch up on what's happening on social media. And, we also are very aware that it affects their mental health. It is addictive, but also they're constantly influenced by what's happening on social media. And then there's also the inappropriate activity that can happen, whether it's, sending inappropriate messages or bullying or whatever it is. And we sort of highlighted those and made those very clear to them. They said, we have to look at ways to stop this, at least for the 6 hours that you're with us in schools. So we said, right, at the moment, that we were giving them the responsibility to turn it off. But as you rightly said there, Greg, they can put it on silent. Yeah. So in effect, we don't know, but they can hear it buzzing and the phones are alerting them. And they're just itching then to try and find out who's contacting me, all the rest. And that is a distraction.
I think it really gives them a break, though. It gives them a break from that. What is that noise? Who is that? And has there been any resistance even, I'm thinking maybe from parents or guardians, maybe helicopter parents, as you might call them, that like to check in on the young ones at break time or lunchtime or even during class. Has there been any pushback? I would expect you to get some from students, and you want them to have that. You want them to have that sort of critical sort of, interaction. But has there been anything from parents?
Well, like that, we give them we sent parents out just a very, very simple, sort of survey. Just, yes, no. Do you want, do you support a mobile-free learning environment? And overwhelmingly, over 85%, and I can't remember the exact percentage, but overwhelmingly they all said yes. Now, there was a small number, but when we asked them what was the reason was that their children needed that phone in terms of communicating with them to get home safely, and we could understand that. So what we then did was to explain to the students and to the parents what exactly this meant. This is different than us taking the phones from them. What it is it's giving the students the responsibility. They put the phones into the pouch. They hold on to those pouches throughout the whole day. They have that responsibility. And at the end of the day, then we have these devices at all the exits in the school, and they basically just tap it and it releases the pouches, opens the pouches, and they have their phones for going home. Mm-hmm. So once parents heard, no, it's not about us taking the phones from them. Now, if there's breaches of the rule and consistent breaches of the rule, and we're in the process of working and refining our policy at the moment around that, of course we have to look at, confiscating the phones if there's, repeated offences. But that will be done in consultation.
Yeah, but because
with
there's
parents.
a massive, everyone's the same, that becomes less likely. Do you know what I mean? Because I would imagine. So, and what about lunchtime? If they're heading down, if certain students are allowed out at lunchtime, they can tap on the way out, presumably, so they have access to. They can't. I'm delighted about that, to be honest with you. I'll tell you why in a moment.
We don't. Well, we don't allow the students out at lunchtime. We've quite a short lunchtime break because we're sort of bang in the middle of the city. So we've 40 minutes for lunchtime, and it's just we don't want them late for class. All of those reasons.
That's perfectly fine. But let's take it to a rural environment. It takes to a rural environment where it might be the mum. It's just like, I think that in terms of bullying and stuff, and I think you referenced this yourself, where fights might take place, where people are videoed in compromising positions, and I've seen that in toilets. You've not seen it, but I've heard of the reports out of schools, or that type of activity where people are compromised or videoed with or without their consent. It takes that out of it as well, which I think is really a good space. It protects the young people till they're back in the care of their parents as well. It's dependent on the child, but I like that element of it.
Yeah, and one of the things that we did, because, of course, students and teenagers, I'm sure if any parent out there is a teenager, the most difficult thing to do at the minute is to get this, your child to turn off that mobile phone. And worse, if you ask for a teenager to hand up their mobile phone, it's like cutting off their hand. So that's the worst thing you can do. So what we try to do is say to them, look, you're taking responsibility for this. This is giving you a break. It's breaking that addiction. It's giving you that 6 hours of freedom where you will be a better student. And what we do now in lunchtime, we're hoping that there will be more students now that will get involved in the debate clubs, in the chess clubs, table tennis, outside playing, rather than running off to try and, because they won't be able to go off to a quiet place in the field to put on the phone because they won't be able to access it. So
and also, please, it's not just the teenagers, give them to their mums and dads at the cinema, in the theatre, at a meeting, at mass, at a funeral, at a wedding where they're asked to switch their phones off, or on an aeroplane, and they don't, because they're as addicted as their teenagers are. So maybe we could see more. And what about the cost of this finally, Siobhan? I'll let you go now very shortly. But I mean, because I'd imagine, listen, it is a simple enough technology, but it's patented and the company want to make their money out of it. Is it?
It is.
Very expensive?
It is. Look, it works out approximately €18 per pouch, So we're going to trial it this year and see how it goes. But I think it's a small price to pay. This is a very low-tech solution to a high-tech problem. And, €18 is, over the course of a whole year, is very little, I think, to invest. Yeah. In this. So we, come back to me in a year's time and check in with me and see how did it go, because we're only about to start this for real, I suppose, in September. We tried it for the 3 days, and it went surprisingly well. We did survey the students, say, well, how did you feel about that? 40% said they felt positive. 10% said they felt neither positive nor negative. They were nonchalant about it. And about 50% said that they were negative about it.
Yeah, well, that's what you want.
We thought that was bad. Really because it's a baseline for us. And of course, they're going to be resistant.
Now, if you do that in 6 months and that 50 drops to 30, that actually really indicates we're onto something that goes beyond
so it'll be an interesting experiment.
Okay. Right, Siobhan, and I think it's good for parents, because I think if we could, because parenting is very, very tough, and if we could know, right, they're going to get 6 hours of a break from that bloody thing. It's good. All right, Siobhan, thanks for all your time this morning. Really appreciate it.
No bother. A
Siobhan,
pleasure. Thank you.
Care. Siobhan Foster, Principal at De La Salle College in Churchtown in Dublin. What do you think? Is that something that you want to see in every secondary school? And if the truth be told, perhaps even national schools. I know there might be policies out there, and it varies from school to school. But I also know that they have access to their phones at times when they shouldn't be texting people who are at work. But anyway, there you go. What do you think? 086 60 25,000. I think it takes a bit of pressure off parents and guardians there. Right, okay, back shortly.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook and at highlandradio.com. The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union with monster loans available up to €60,000 for all occasions. Visit letterkennycu.ie.
I've lost my car keys. Lost my car once in a multi-story. Lost my patience. My hair? Lost that a while back. But this week, I found things I thought had gone forever. The crackle of needle on vinyl. Leaves crunching. I found them all at Specsavers. I got free hearing aids with PRSI. And now those sounds are back. So's my joie de vivre. Still can't find those keys, though.
Book a free hearing test today. Terms and conditions apply. See our website for details.
Most people say that Donegal is the coolest place on the planet. But up here, we know that sometimes it can be the coldest. Charles Brunner & Sons Ballybuffet is the one-stop shop for all your heating needs. We have a huge range of multi-fuel and wood pellet stoves and ranges, spare parts for all major stove and range brands, plumbing and bathroom ware, all at exceptional prices. So visit our showrooms where our friendly and experienced team will be ready to help you. Charles Brunner & Sons Ballybuffet and the stovestore.ie, where you can always do a good deal better.
Collins Fun Fair will be at Canal Street Car Park, Strabane, Friday the 16th to Sunday the 25th of June. Open weekly, 6 p.m. till 8, weekends to 30 p.m. till 8. 2 great ways to pay. Buy 20 tokens and get 5 free, or pay as you go. Come along and enjoy some family fun with Ireland's largest touring fun fair. Collins at Canal Street Car Park, Strabane, from Friday the 16th to Sunday the 25th of June. Open Saturday the 17th from 12 noon till 8.
Do you currently have vacancies that need urgently filled? Have you tried various ways to find new staff but didn't succeed? Let Highland Radio help you source and fill your current vacancies in the most cost-effective way. Simply sign up to our new job spot and we will tell our listeners about your vacancies both on air and online. Every Monday, Wednesday and Friday during our primetime shows, we will broadcast the latest job opportunities across the Northwest and into counties Derry and Tyrone. All job listings will be available online at highlandradio.com. For more information, contact the advertising team on 07491 25322 or email advertising@highlandradio.com. Highland Radio, we're here for you.
Okay, so there are a few roads around Donegal, quite a few roads as well, that sort of become de facto bypasses, you know, where people try and avoid traffic queues or what have you, and they become really quite busy roads with a lot of traffic. And one such road is the Leck Road in Letterkenny, and one local resident there is Kathleen Crossan, who joins us now. Hiya, Kathleen.
Good morning, Greg. How are you?
I'm okay. Right, so the Leck Road, who uses it? Is people really trying to avoid maybe work on the 4 lanes or maybe to avoid going through Letterkenny itself if they're heading out, I don't know, the Glenties Road or what have you? Is that the type of traffic you see on that road?
Well, maybe the 4 lanes repair, maybe that might be contributing to it, but it's always been bad.
Yeah.
And now it's a lot worse. The traffic are coming and the speed. We can hardly get out the gate days. And some of my family can't even, if they're coming from work down this way, they can't even stop and come in. It's so busy.
Really?
So we have been looking for ramps for approximately 2 to 3 years, and there were all sorts of excuses made. There was emergency services couldn't use it and things like that. So I don't know.
Yeah. Now, just as it relates to your property, your husband had a lucky escape recently, didn't he?
He did indeed. If he had been out on the road, it would have been goodbye, Malachi. Because somebody can speed, and they had the cone there's a yellow line, and they had the cone at the yellow line, and he was in trimming be good luck, he was in the garden trimming the hedge, and somebody came flying up, sent the cone flying, 3 different parts scattered on the road. So, I mean, it's near misses all the time here, Greg.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Donald Hoyle, in fairness, came and he sat in our street one day and he knows what it's like.
Now, also, too, you know, I mean, I would say, Kathleen, for you and other residents on the area, it's not a case of if something happens, it's when it happens, or when will it happen.
Exactly.
And that's why you're sort of saying, look, be warned, we're telling you something's going to happen seriously here if something is not done. That's the desperation you're at now.
That is true, Greg, and that's what I told the engineer. I said, it's too late. When something happens, get something done now. But we're still waiting. There were engineers out here yesterday, but we didn't see them. I didn't see them. So I'm not just sure what they were measuring for. I don't know.
Could you go out for a walk on the road? Do you feel safe? Could you do that?
Yes, I used to walk on the road, but now I have to wait till maybe 7 or 8 o'clock until it, gets a bit quieter. You couldn't walk down the road now at all during the day because they're coming speeding. And when you go down a bit, we have a footpath right enough, but between my house and the footpath, it's narrow. Well, it's fairly narrow, and they're coming speeding up, and they wouldn't even slow down meeting you. You have to step into the hedge. And my friend down the road, she'll not visit me now because she's too nervous of the traffic.
Yeah. And you see, if the truth be told, it's probably more likely to be impatient drivers that are using that road because they're trying to avoid any delays. And if they're inclined to be impatient, they're not going to worry about poor Kathleen out for a walk, are they? They're just going to keep the foot down.
That's right. You are right.
Who's Molly?
100%. Pardon?
Who's Molly?
Molly is my mascot at the gate here. Just to see would they slow down. Maybe the one might slow down. Somebody told me one day they stopped it to let her across the road, but after that, when they realised she wasn't going to move, they went on.
I don't know if that driver should be driving if they stop to let Molly cross the road. But it serves two purposes, doesn't it? It highlights the campaign, but also, as you say, Molly's a mannequin there wearing a high-vid vest and a cap, and if someone thinks it's a guard, maybe they'll think twice and take the foot off the accelerator.
That's right. Well, you'd hope that.
Yeah, so as soon as, say, there's an announcement of a bank holiday weekend, they're closing one lane on the 4 lanes, or coming up to the rally weekend, a lot of people are going, oh, it's going to be a nightmare getting around. You're thinking it's going to be a nightmare because we're going to see even more traffic passing the front gates.
Yeah. That's right. There'll be more traffic on this road. I don't mind traffic at the during the rally. That's you can expect that. But when the rally goes again, it's as bad as ever.
Handy way into the town.
It's just a handy way into the town and out.
Yeah.
And a lot of people use it as a shortcut. And then there's speed signs up here. They put them up maybe last year, but nobody looks at them.
Yeah.
Nobody looks at them.
And it's 60, isn't it? Supposedly.
Pardon?
It's supposed to be 60.
It's supposed to be 60, yes. Well, there was somebody caught on it there last week. I was told at 90 something.
Wow.
And that wouldn't be unusual.
That road's not built for that.
No, it's not. Certainly not. No.
Right.
No.
Okay. So you're calling for action here. It's speed ramps because even if there were speed checks, look, that's going to be hit and miss. The Garda's resources are stretched as is. You believe that speed ramps are what's required here?
Speed ramps are what is required at our gates and up the road at my son and daughter. They need something up there too.
Yeah.
But definitely speed ramps they talked about coming and putting up flashing lights, and I told the engineers, I said, it's a waste of money.
No,
so don't be coming here.
I think Molly would be as effective as flashing lights, if the truth be told.
I think so, yes. Yeah. I think so.
Right, okay. I just hope nothing happens because the warning's out there. And, I mean, obviously you're speaking to us now, but you've been in the papers and you've been, contacting local councillors and, you've done everything you can anyway, I think, Kathleen, at this point.
We've done everything we can now, and we're just waiting now to see what I see now we're... Dermot Doherty came out and done a story on Molly and the traffic. And I see we're in the front page. I didn't read it yet. Is it the Derry People? Yeah.
It's the Donegal News.
Oh, the Donegal News, yeah. Well, it was the Derry People in my day, Greg.
But, I mean, I think you're being really realistic here. You understand that it's going to be busier during the rally. You don't mind that, but this is everyday traffic now.
That's right. Everyday traffic. You don't mind during the rally, you can excuse that, but it's a everyday traffic before and after that.
Okay. Well, you're on page 3. You're
page 3, isn't it? Right.
Going back a while, that was something different too, wasn't it? So you've made you've made page 3, Kathleen, and it's
I didn't make page 3 on this. It was at the start. Was it the start? Page 3
in the sun. Well, listen, Kathleen, you're obviously a lovely woman from a lovely family, and it's a really, and I'm glad we can have a little laugh, but it is a serious issue, and I do hope, I do hope you're because you're on about safety here, and you want something done before something serious happens, and I appreciate that, and best wishes to does Malik have anything he wants to add just before we wrap it up?
No, he's not here at the moment.
Is he not? Okay.
He's away from... No.
All right, okay, no problem. All right, okay, thanks for that, Kathleen. Best wishes to you and all, okay? Take care. Kathleen Crossan there, resident on the Leck Road in Letterkenny, and as you can see, or as you can hear there, I'll show you the picture for those of you who are watching the show, and don't forget you can watch the programme every day on you can watch the show every day on our YouTube channel, Highland Radio Ireland. And for those of you all watching, there is the family in the paper this morning, and there's Molly there. There she is. All right, 086 60 25,000. If you live on that road and want to join that conversation, I think the more of you that speak out, the stronger the argument from Kathleen becomes. So 086 60 25,000 or call us on 07491 25,000.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union. Simplify your debts with a debt consolidation loan from Letterkenny Credit Union. Call us on 074 910 2126 or apply online via our app or in office today.
Summer reductions on your favourite brands at Brian McCormick Sports, Brooks and Asics with 20% off. Check in-store and online. Brooks Glycerine and Adrenaline 22 GTS save 20%. Asics Keanu 29, Asics GT 2011 save 20%. Get ready for the summer and save 20% off your favourite kids' Asics trainers. Look the part, play the part. In-store and online. Click and collect on bmcsports.ie.
PDO Thread Lifts, the ultimate non-surgical lift for the skin, improving facial contours, lifting and tightening jowls, the neck, cheeks and eyebrows, are available at Genesis Aesthetics and Skincare Clinic Eudore. For help choosing the right aesthetic treatment for you, contact Mary Ferry, your aesthetic practitioner. Also offering fat-dissolving treatments, dermal fillers and laser treatments for all skin conditions. Hair and makeup packages also available. Genesis Aesthetics and Skincare Clinic Eudore, 07495 325 75.
Our wide range of 2023 Skodas are going fast. This is the sound of the Breen family getting their powerful diesel Kodiaq. And this is fully charged Fiona, driving away in her electric Skoda Enyaq. And this is the sound of someone who didn't place their order in time. Order your 2023 Skoda today, before it's too late. Skoda. Made for Ireland.
Your local Skoda dealer is DMG Motors, Clare Road, Donegal Town. Telephone 074 9721 396 or visit dmgmotors.ie.
At global healthcare company Abbott, you can build a career with a purpose while helping families live fuller, healthier lives. Our diabetes care business in Donegal is an award-winning site committed to the manufacture of life-changing medical devices. We're looking for permanent full-time process team leaders and engineers to become part of our team. Visit jobs.abbott.com/Donegal.
Okay, Dr. Joe Kelly, historian and teacher, joins us on the show now. He's got his teacher's cap on. I can see it here on Zoom. Good morning, Joe.
Greg is the Loch Déisteachta. Good morning to yourself and all listening in Highland Radio.
It's great to have you back on the show, Joe. Right, we're going to talk about the exams that are running at the moment. We'll start with the Leaving Cert, and there was a big hoo-ha about a recent maths paper. A lot of students saying that they couldn't work it out because they hadn't revised for it. What happened, Joe?
Yeah, well, I'm not a maths teacher, but I'd be aware of what has happened. And I have colleagues that are teachers in that subject, and I would have listened to them. But clearly what happened was, in the paper, they set a lot of questions at the end of each question that were through the students. It was like a curveball. And it meant that they had to think differently about how they approach the answer. And there was a terrible lot of fractions from what I understand, which is okay if somebody is good at fractions, but fractions should only be a section of the paper like everything else. So there seemed to be a lot of fractions throughout the paper. And the issue really isn't so much that. The issue is the upset that it caused. Because a lot of students, I think this was on the 9th of June, right at the beginning of the Leaving Cert, the Feast of Columcille, our own county man. And it set them to the point that many, I wouldn't imagine anybody from who I've listened to had left that paper feeling confident that they had done well. So their confidence then was hit, and this had an impact, as far as I'm concerned, into all the further subjects that were to follow, so much so that maybe they focused very heavily then on paper 2 in maths, to the exclusion of Irish, which would have been on at the same time. So I think there's a serious question to be asked about what was going on with the State's Examination Commission in setting a paper like this, and to consider that this was the COVID year. This is a year that didn't do the junior cert. This is a year that has missed a lot of class-based time, and to do something like that, I think, was totally insensitive and calls into question what really is going on at a wider level in our education system. Think of this, Greg. They have a system now in place in our Department of Education advisors. They want 400 hours of well-being in junior cert. Now, I'm not a fan of the phrase well-being. I prefer the word being well. And it means a totally, for me personally, a totally different thing. How do we make our students be well? Well-being has become only a buzzword and everything's well-being, but how do you be well? We're human beings. We're not human doings. And for the 400 hours that these students would have done of well-being, this is how they're treated at the end of that. It merely seems to me to be a social exercise in ticking the boxes. We're doing the well-being, but you know what? We'll throw you a curveball at the end of all your well-being.
And do you know what concerns me is the lack of understanding in that it was mitigated by saying, well, we have this bell curve, and it will take into consideration and blah. But the damage has been done, the stress has been done. And my understanding too, that's providing answers where all questions an attempt was made at an answer, that they might better benefit from this marking system. So the fact that was thrown out as if to say, don't worry about that a couple of days later, it doesn't really, it doesn't talk to what you're talking about, the stress and the impact it has on subsequent exams. And also it really hasn't been discussed that you really need to have made a decent stab at all of the questions, which a lot of students didn't know this in advance and would have looked at this paper and went, I don't know what I'm doing here.
Yeah, and then they may have not tried to answer the question because their confidence have been shot. Again, this is like we're dealing with young men and young women that we're trying to form to be the future leaders and parents of our society, the future problem solvers. And I don't know if we approached, with this kind of exam paper, we approached this properly. And it calls, as far as I'm concerned, it calls, and I've been saying this before, Greg, it calls into the whole philosophy of education. What is education about? What are we doing for the benefit of our children? And again, I think parents maybe this time realise that it impacts on them and their little boy and little girl, that are grown man or woman at this stage, that it's not, you drop your kids off at the school. Schools do their best, but schools are only part of a very big body of people. Like there's the State Examination Commission, there's the National Council for Curriculum Assessment, NCCA, then there's the Inspectorate, then there's the Department of Education, then there's the Minister, then there's the politicians, then you have teachers, unions. I mean, there's so many various bodies involved in a school situation. And like our philosophy of education, and I imagine it's in every school, is to try to encourage the students to be as alive and to open like a flower in the sun in the lovely weather we're having. And we should try to facilitate that in every way. But education is also a very serious matter.
Yes, of course. We only have another couple of minutes, and I want to talk to you about the junior cert, because you've concerns about the new junior cert, don't you? And we could be talking in 2 to 3 years' time or 4 years' time about the impact this new junior cert might be having on leaving cert students as well. So, as I say, sorry to be moving this along, but what is the problem you have with the JCT?
I think we've dumbed down our whole education system, and it's becoming. I mean, I would encourage parents, go and look at the junior cert history paper, and again about well-being. They had roughly 25 pages to write in 2 hours. It's no longer ordinary and higher. It's now a common paper. Any adult human being would struggle to do that in that amount of time. And I'll just give an example of some of the stuff that's in it. There was two pictures, a camogie game from 1915 and 2019. So one coloured, one black and white. And one was dated to 1915, the other was dated 2019. And one of the questions was, how many years between the two pictures? I mean, this is the kind of stuff that's coming up. Explain three differences between the two pictures. So, for example, the modern one, they would have been wearing jerseys, helmets, as where the old one, it was maybe long skirts and no helmets and things like that. This has nothing to do with history, but this is what we're putting maths into history.
Why are they doing it? Why? It's for a reason.
Well, I don't know. There was another question 7 on the Troubles in Northern Ireland, and they had two tables, and they asked one, how many civilians were killed in the Troubles in Northern Ireland? And there's different graphs, and the answer was 1840. And then the other one was how many civilians were killed by the Loyalist and Republican paramilitaries, and you just had to add the two numbers.
But does that not make you understand the history by doing an equation? Is there not a logic there?
It may well be, but you don't need an equation to know those numbers.
Yeah,
those things would have been taught in class. You don't need to be doing maths.
But there's a reason. There's a reason why it's happening. Is it to be more accommodating to people who might not have done national school here, or?
Well, I mean, in that case, then continue with the honours and the ordinary.
Well, could it be? I don't know. Why?
I don't know the answer behind it myself. My own belief is I think that they're trying actually to dumb down the Irish people so that they don't think for themselves. A lot of our education, and it's not about the schools. The schools are living bodies that are trying their best, management, teachers, etc. But there's a curriculum and there's agendas being used by unelected people that are deciding what goes into our curriculum and how it's been formed. And I just wonder how much is actually coming from the people themselves. And I would be concerned if that's the level our history is going to. And other subjects are the same. Where are we leading our students with education? Are we giving them the critical skills to evaluate and be problem solvers? One of the great scholars of education would be Cardinal Henry Newman. He was a convert. And he was always into a liberal education where he didn't want cancel culture. He didn't want an agenda culture. He talked about where you had an open view on everything and that you were challenged to think. And I wonder, has our education system been drained of that?
Joe, you always drop a bombshell just as we're ending, but I don't think anyone agrees that spot the difference competitions and basic subtraction are what history is all about. And I'll tell you what we'll do, Joe. We'll revisit this conversation in a longer format and get our listeners more involved, because I'll tell you, a lot of parents and guardians out there are learning this type of information for the first time, because how else do they know it?
It's no longer acceptable, I think, for parents, and they have to maybe put on their thinking hats. And it's not the schools or the teachers that you drop your kids at the front door of the school and believe then that they're going to be educated when they come back out. You need to be more informed as to how they're being educated, what are they being educated with. And this is not about teachers and schools, because we're doing our best.
All right,
I hope.
Okay. Well, listen, come here. We're going to come back to it. Thanks, Joe. As always, thank you so very much indeed. Dr. Joe Kelly, food for thought. 086 60 25,000 WhatsApps and texts to have your say on that. As I say, I think that's an education for a lot of us, hearing that kind of information for the first time today.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union. Digital loans now available. Apply online or via our app today and get your loan transferred directly to your current account.
Happy Father's Day.
This Father's Day, choose Dolce & Gabbana, Gucci, Cool Water, Diesel, 1 million, Jean-Paul Gaultier. Choose McGee's Chemist, Main Street, Letterkenny. Happy Father's Day.
New €60 per cow suckler scheme. For more in your Farmer's Journal, here's Paul Mooney.
Government approves €28 million scheme to open within weeks. Farmers urged to chase fodder deficits as drought continues. New department task force to examine dairy cull plan. Arrests made following livestock and machinery thefts. Hedge removal and drainage work on farms come under scrutiny. And don't miss our free land use report with KPMG, which reveals why high food prices are here to stay.
All inside this week's Irish Farmer's Journal. On sale now.
Milford Tiles, wood flooring and bathware. Milford Retail Park. New wood flooring just arrived. 8mm AC laminate, $9.99 a square yard. 10mm, $12.50 a square yard. 12mm, $14.99 a square yard. Beautiful 8mm AC4 gloss laminate, $16.99 a square yard. All in stock, fitters available. Milford Tiles, wood flooring and bathware. 083 091 0707.
Celebrate Father's Day at Foyleside. Join us Saturday 17th of June, 1 to 4 p.m. and experience our thrilling VR driving simulator to win prizes. Challenge Dad to mini golf or capture memories with vintage cars, including the iconic DeLorean, with donations to Foyle Hospice. Plus, free draw to win a supercar driving experience. Father's Day at Foyleside. See you there.
At On Post, we believe in giving you more power over how you bank. That's why AIB and Bank of Ireland customers can now lodge and withdraw money at any of our 900 post offices across Ireland 6 days a week. That's right, your bank is in your post office for personal and business banking alike, meaning you can bank wherever you live or work. Visit your local post office or onpost.com/everydaybanking. On Post, your money for your world. Allied Irish Banks plc and Bank of Ireland are regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Live, on air, online and on the Highland Radio app. This is Highland Radio News.
Good morning, it's Donna Marie Doherty with the news at 10 o'clock. In the UK, a group of MPs has found that Boris Johnson knowingly misled Parliament when he said all COVID guidance was followed at lockdown parties on Downing Street. The former British Prime Minister has already responded to the findings by the Privileges Committee, calling the conclusion to the 14-month investigation deranged. It was recommended he be suspended from the House of Commons for 90 days, but he's already resigned. Sky's political editor, Beth Rigby, has been reading the document.
That is a much bigger sanction than was suspected. We recommend he should not be entitled to a former member's pass. This is also from the committee. Here are some of the charges: deliberately misleading the House, deliberately misleading the committee, breaching confidence.
Labour MP Chris Bryant describes Mr Johnson as a disgraced former British Prime Minister.
When he started behaving like a child throwing his toys at the pram last Friday, he committed another contempt of Parliament by just storming off because he refused to face the music in Parliament and he refused to face the music in his constituency.
Investigations are underway in Sligo following the death of a woman who was hit by a train yesterday afternoon. Her body has been removed to Sligo University Hospital, where a post-mortem is expected to take place. Aoife Cairns is at the scene.
Jessica McLaughlin was killed in the incident near Ballysadare, County Sligo at around 4 o'clock yesterday. It's understood she was walking on the tracks with a woman who's believed to be her niece at the time. The second woman, who's in her 20s, was also struck by the train and is being treated in hospital for serious injuries. Jessica McLaughlin's body was removed from the scene late last night following a forensic examination. 3 investigations will be carried out, one by Gardaí, one by Irish Rail, as well as the Rail Accident Investigation Unit. Services resumed this morning and the track has since reopened. Aoife Cairns in Ballysadare, County Sligo.
Food prices are unlikely to fall to where they were before high inflation took hold. It's because of the pressure of legislation, regulation and innovation on Irish farmland. A report carried out by KPMG for the Farmers Journal found farm production here is at an all-time low, with falling numbers of both farmers and farms. The report found that while Donegal accounts for the most sheep farming in Ireland, the county holds the lowest percentage of farmland nationally at 39%. Irish Farmers Journal agribusiness editor Lorcan Rosh Kelly says the outlook is food prices will remain high.
It is unlikely, I think, because the global demand, the number of people in the world is going up, global demand for food is going up. Ireland will be producing less food, but the competitiveness of the international markets is going to be high. Ireland won't be able to overproduce in order to meet the demand at home and internationally. So something's going to have to give. It's unlikely that prices will be falling rapidly because the demand is going to be globally, is going to support prices.
A Killy-Gordon councillor is welcoming word of roadworks to be progressed on McGrory's Bray, that's located on the N15 between Ballybuffet and Donegal Town. The works to take place will see the implementation of a hard shoulder, which will benefit vulnerable road users such as cyclists. It comes following a member of the Finn Wheeler cycling group being involved in a collision a number of years ago in which they almost lost their life. Councillor Patrick McGowan says drivers of all types of vehicles struggle on the road.
This is a very steep hill. It has effects on vehicles. Lorry drivers are also complaining how difficult it is to get up and down that hill, particularly when it's bad weather. And another big issue was from cyclists, particularly the local club here, the Finn Wheelers. They had brought attention to this. Anybody driving through Barnish Gap can see where the big signs are, particularly there after one of their members, way back over a year and a half ago, got knocked down there. And it is a troublesome part.
Today marks Clean Air Day. The slogan for this year's campaign is Clean Up Our Air to Look After Your Mind. Derry City and Strabane District Council's environmental health team are aiming to raise awareness about the importance of good air quality and the impact it has on the public's health. Mayor Councillor Patricia Rogue is urging people to use the day to learn more about how their actions can have an impact on pollution levels. Moving now to weather. Today will be warm with sunny spells, hazy at times. Highest temperatures of 23 to 26 degrees in a light to moderate south to southeast wind. That's all for now. We'll be back again with news headlines at 11 o'clock. Until then, good morning. The obituary notices this Thursday morning, June 15th. The death has occurred of Elizabeth Lizzie Anderson, ní McGranahan, Carrick McGrath, Ballybuffet, reposing at her late residence this evening from 6 o'clock. Funeral leaving from there on Saturday at 11:30 a.m. for Requiem Mass in St Mary's Church Sessionil at 12 noon. Interment afterwards in the adjoining churchyard. Rosary each night at 9 o'clock. Family time from 10 p.m. to 11 a.m. and on the morning of the funeral. The Requiem Mass will be streamed live via the parish YouTube channel. Family flowers only please. Donations in lieu if so desired to the Alzheimer's Society of Ireland and the Donegal Hospice, care of McCool Funeral Directors or any family member. The death has taken place of Howard Stewart, Drumcarbet Malin. Howard's remains are reposing at his home, house private to family, close friends and neighbours. Howard's remains will leave his home tomorrow at 3 p.m. for funeral service in the Malin Presbyterian Church Lag, followed by burial in the adjoining graveyard. Funeral service can be viewed live on the Malin Head Community Facebook page. Family flowers only please. Donations in lieu if desired to the Malin Presbyterian Church Restoration Fund, care of any family member. The death has taken place of Patrick Packy Gallagher, Loughaskeri Terman. Packy's remains are reposing at his late residence. Funeral from there tomorrow morning for Requiem Mass at 11 o'clock in St Columba's Church Terman, followed by interment in the adjoining cemetery. Family time please from 11 p.m. to 10 a.m. and on the morning of the funeral. Family flowers only please. The death has occurred of Fintan Callahan of Callahan Electrical, Spinog Burt. Fintan's remains are reposing at his home. Removal tomorrow morning to St Angus's Church Burt for Requiem Mass at 11 o'clock, followed by interment in Burt Cemetery. Requiem Mass can be viewed live on churchservices.tv. Family time please from 10 p.m. tonight and before the funeral tomorrow morning. Family flowers only please. Donations in lieu if desired to the Donegal Hospice, care of any family member or Murphy Funeral Directors. The death has taken place of Francis Call, Ranafast and Glasgow. Remains are reposing in the family home in Ranafast with Rosary nightly at 8 o'clock. House private after Rosary until 11 a.m. and on the morning of the funeral. Funeral Mass tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock in St Mary's Star of the Sea Church Annagry with interment afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. The funeral mass can be viewed live on Kieran Rorty's funeral director's Facebook page. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu to Aris Guidor, care of any family member or Kieran Rorty funeral director. For more details, including any family health guidelines for wakes and funerals, please go to highlandradio.com.
Post, we believe in giving you more power over how you bank. That's why AIB and Bank of Ireland customers can now lodge and withdraw money at any of our 900 post offices across Ireland 6 days a week. That's right, your bank is in your post office for personal and business banking alike, meaning you can bank wherever you live or work. Visit your local post office or onpost.com/everydaybanking. On Post, your money for your world. Allied Irish Banks plc and Bank of Ireland are regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
With all the stories that matter across the Northwest, it's Greg Hughes on the 9 to Noon Show on Highland Radio.
Good morning, welcome back. It is the 9 till Noon Show into hour 2 for this Thursday, the 15th of June. The weather looks like it's going to break a little bit over the next couple of days, and I was asking around here in studio if people would welcome that, and everyone said no. I would have thought that some people would like a little bit of respite from it now. Is it too soon to even be saying that? The night's a little bit too warm. What do you think? Would you be glad to see maybe slightly cooler weather? A little bit of rain even, perhaps? Let us know. 086 60 25,000. Right, it's jackpot day today on Bingo, so stay tuned. That's coming up very shortly for you, but I want to get to some comments here now. Rally cars and support vehicles blocked the R254 yesterday as they carried out time trials. It's a regional road in the national park. Tourists hadn't a clue what was going on. Why is this tolerated by Gardaí? Greg, could you find out the sense that it was decided to do roadworks on the Mountaintop Roundabout at Rally Weekend? I know exactly where you're talking about. I presume you're on about the work that's ongoing at that roundabout and that's just outside here and all the way down past the petrol station there and out towards Kilmacrennan. I don't know, that road work's long overdue. Is there ever a good time to start it? The lads down there and the ladies seem to be cracking through it at the moment. I do understand exactly where you're going from. Presumably, maybe it'll be 2 lanes of traffic for the weekend, because it is most evenings and over the weekend when they're not working. But I suppose, as I say, just playing devil's advocate here, is there ever a good time? There's always something on, isn't there? Hi, Greg. Good luck and keep safe to Enda McBride in the rally this weekend from all in his cafe. Good morning, Greg. I know it's not related to schools, but last year I was at a Bob Dylan gig and the phone pouch system was used. It made sure that the gig was completely phone-free, which I think benefited everyone. The system was very quick and easy. Yeah, you just put it into the pouch, seal it, and then you unlock it as you get out. And sometimes even us as adults perhaps need to be compelled into action. I mean, how many people, spend a fortune and build up all the excitement to go to a concert or a football match, if it's across the channel or wherever it might be, and end up watching it through the screen of a phone? And does anyone ever really look at that footage again? I was down at the Lewis Capaldi concert, I think, and I made a couple of videos, but I haven't opened them since. Now, it wasn't much. I mostly watched the concert, but, there were people who had the phone out all the time. Do people really look back at that? It sounds awful because it's so loud, the phone speaker's completely distorted. Or maybe people want to archive it themselves and they do look back at it. I don't know. Good morning, Greg. The idea of phones being locked up during school hours, in my opinion, is a great move. As much as I love young people, their lives are being so taken up and missing out on so much. They are losing the art of conversation and communications, and skills are also being involved in sport and other activities. Then, of course, there is the dreaded bullying that is so common with the phone. So I really hope all schools get involved. Yes, they're losing the art of certain things. We're losing the art of parenting. It's us that puts the phone into their hands. And when I say us, I include myself at younger ages. And it's us that send them off to school with the phone and don't really probably say, now, don't take your phone out during school. Do we do that? So the schools are going, right, mum and dad and what have you aren't doing this. So we're going to have to bring in these particular pouches. I need to take a back road in the morning rather than getting stuck at the mountaintop for 30 minutes in and around 8:30 a.m. There should be 2 full lanes from the mountaintop roundabout down to the Optum roundabout. But then where would the traffic go? That gets you to Optum. But then, of course, all that traffic converges further down the line, doesn't it? Hi, Greg. For those that are feeling lonely or want to get involved, I've something new. Ard's Walled Garden Community Project at Ard's Friary. Every Saturday, it's from 2 to 4. Meet great friends since joining. Learned new skills and I'm out in the fresh air. They're having an open day on Saturday, the 7th of June, 2 to 4. Everyone welcome, music, refreshments and a plant sale. So that's someone who started recently attending and has found it. They've met people. They're out in the fresh air, learn new skills, which is lovely. Open day on Saturday between 2 and 4 out at Ard's Walled Garden. Hi, Greg. There should be a way for people who like the rally but can't go be able to watch the rally live as it happens, like televised. Yeah, it's huge. It would be a huge operation. In fact, even doing a highlights package is prohibitively complicated and expensive, I would say. Listen, I know you want to watch it, but if you want to find out what's happening and get a sense of what's happening and get the results as they happen, please make sure to tune in to Highland Radio over the weekend. Oisin Kelly and his team will be out and about and as I say, it doesn't really address your point directly, but you will feel right across all the action. And now with social media too, the teams will be out taking videos as well and sticking them up on our social media. So if you're on Facebook or if you're not, maybe set up an account, it's more interactive now and more immersive, because we will have videos for you as well as, the usual priority, which is our radio coverage. But in this day and age, you want to offer other services as well. Oisin Kelly will be coming on a little later on to outline exactly what you can look forward to. In relation to that talk about exams, says this emailer, I remember doing my Leaving Junior Cert History exam many years ago, and there were very easy questions like the one Joe Kelly was talking about, but these were usually the first questions in the section and were purposely easy to relax you into the rest of the questions and were not scored high. They just settled you into the paper. And I would say, obviously, Joe picked out a couple of examples, but he's a teacher and he knows an easy paper versus a more complicated one. And he says the history is just, it's been dumbed down and it's not just history. Sure, most of the back roads are 80 kilometres. Is that not the case? Yeah, they are, really, when that's the default lowest, isn't it? But this road at Leck is 60 kilometres. Hi, Greg. The 4-lane road into Letterkenny, did you notice it has 3 lanes marked on the road at the Polestar roundabout going into town? Crash waiting to happen because people in the left lane and middle go in the same way, while the left lane should be for only going left, need a sign to say get in lane. I haven't been on that road since it was lined. I don't recall there being 3 lanes, but if there are, left lane, left turn, centre lane onto the IT or the ATU, right lane out towards the Mount Errigal. So get in lane. There will be signs on the road saying get in lane. So if there are 3, I presume that is it. Left lane that way, middle lane straight ahead, right lane right way. Good morning, Greg. The road the road goes past my house has a speed limit of 50 kilometres. The councillor done a speed check with the box and the average was 78 kilometres. The high speed recorded was 109. The councillor supposed to be organising ramps but not sure when. Where's that road? Is it the same? Is it the Leck Road? Probably not, because that speed limit's different. The poor old town bridge was not created for the amount of traffic using it at the minute. Indeed, it's not. And there are some concerns about its structure. The Old Town Bridge is incredibly historic, both in a positive and really negative way. It's an incredibly important, I would have thought, an incredibly important bridge. In fact, it should be, I think, marketed much more for the history that it has and that went on around it. I think when I say we, I'm not from Letterkenny, but I think the people at Letterkenny are missing a trick in not capitalising on that more, because when you go to an area, the shops that you see in Letterkenny, you can see them elsewhere, of course. When you go to an area to visit, it's the history that brings you in, isn't it? Okay, let's go for the bingo numbers. We'll be right back after
The county's #1 talk show, the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio.
It's time for NCBI Bingo on Highland Radio.
It's Thursday, the 15th of June, Jackpot Day. You're playing for the jackpot prize of €18,000 on the pink sheet. The reference number is S19. It's game number 24. The jackpot number is 61. This number can come out in any position from the next 10 numbers drawn. And now, here are your daily numbers. 72. 40, 57, 24, 6, 74, 31, 75, 18, and finally 30. Phone your claim to 91048333 before 8 tonight, leaving your name, contact number and the name of the shop where you purchased your book, and we'll call you back the next working day. Get all your NCBI bingo information at highlandradio.com.
Happy Father's Day.
This Father's Day, choose Calvin Klein, Chanel, Hugo Boss, Burberry, Lacoste, Giorgio Armani. Choose McGee's Chemist, Main Street, Letterkenny. Happy Father's Day.
Collins Fun Fair will be at Canal Street Car Park, Strabane, Friday the 16th to Sunday the 25th of June. Open weekly, 6 p.m. to late, weekends, 2:30 p.m. to late. 2 great ways to pay. Buy 20 tokens and get 5 free, or pay as you go. Come along and enjoy some family fun with Ireland's largest touring fun fair. Collins at Canal Street Car Park, Strabane, from Friday the 16th to Sunday the 25th of June. Open Saturday the 17th from 12 noon to late.
The groom goes free. The groom goes free. Yes, you heard it. The Groom's Room. Evolve Clothing, Letterkenny Retail Park. The groom goes free. Call in today. Terms and conditions apply.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union, now offering mortgages from €40,000 to €600,000 with no hidden fees or transaction charges. Letterkenny Credit Union, 9102127.
All right, still to come on the show, we have some live music for you in studio, and also Oisin Kelly will be coming on to preview the rally, and we have our competition where one of you will win a one-for-all voucher. Now, the lines are open if you want to come on air and answer a simple question. We've tweaked the format a little bit. Get in touch with us right now. 086 60 25,000. Your name and where you're from and the number you want us to contact you on. If you want to come on and be within a chance to win a €100 voucher, get in touch with us right now. We're drawing up the shortlist as we speak. Now, Colin Bryce, author of Little Donegal, The Irish in the Gorbals, and Govan Hill joins us on the programme now. Great to have you on the show. Thank you very much indeed, and congratulations on getting your book together, getting it published. It's a great achievement, I think, Colin.
Thanks very much, Greg.
All right, so talk to me about how this book came about. What was the idea that you followed up on?
It came out of a couple of things. I moved with my partner, Julie, to Govan Hill. Julie grew up there. We moved there during the pandemic in 2020, and we always had a vague sense that there was always an idea that my grandmother had been born in the Gorbals in around the turn of the century, but it was very fragmentary. People didn't really know the details of it, and it was all sort of in danger of being lost completely. So we started to do a bit of research about that. And drew on the family and drew on cousins and my father's memories and all that sort of stuff, and gradually began to piece together the story of my family and their connection to the Gorbals, and then how they came back. They then moved back to Gweedore, but her father tragically died in the middle of all that. Her mother sold the land and had a bit of money, came to Derry. We think she was thinking of going to America, but she saw a bar was for sale on Waterloo Street called Inishowen Bar, and she decided to buy it and renamed it the Gweedore Bar. And that was where, like all the bars on Waterloo Street in Derry, the Rosses, the Dunlow, the Gweedore, it was where people walked in from West Donegal, borrowed the money for the Scotch boat, and went across and paid it back whenever they came back in the after the harvest had been done and stuff like that. So that was our connection. So it was but that was part of the story. But it was also, in starting to do that, you had to sort of try, and I had to try and get my head around a lot of the history of what was happening in Donegal itself. Why were people forced to move away to places like Glasgow and further afield, of course, and what drew them to Glasgow? And it was a kind of a bit about sort of understanding the hostility and the antagonism that the Catholic Irish in particular faced whenever they arrived in Scotland. And still do to a certain extent, but much less than those times. But understand that hostility and how that same hostility is directed towards more recent migrants. Govan Hill is one of the most multicultural and diverse, areas of Scotland. It's where all the new arrivals arrive from Eastern Europe, from Africa now, and in Middle East and so on, and also facing those same myths and that same hostility.
Well, you see, and people will say, yeah, exactly. We'll tease that out, but just that analogy that you made of what we see now. Because often what the argument will be is that if you say, well, listen, we left for a better life and what have you, and then people come back to you and say, oh, yeah, but we went to work. We went over there, we paid our way, we paid our taxes. It paints this picture that, it was like, all right, here comes the hardworking Irish, all our problems are fixed, our arms are open. But no, it wasn't like that at all. The same sort of, to some extent, too organised anti-immigrant sentiment that's ongoing at the moment. The Irish felt that even if they went over well-intentioned to work, they felt that as they set foot on the nearby land of Scotland.
Oh, absolutely. Very, very true. I mean, it's shocking when you go back to read the things that were directed towards the Irish. I mean, and all of it contradictory, of course, Greg, as you know. On one hand, they're accused of being lazy, and the other hand, they're accused of sort of stealing work from and working for a pittance, from the native Scottish. But it was a very calculated, I think, a very calculated and directed thing towards the Irish. It was that thing. It's the nature of racism. It's to ascribe to a whole section of people, a certain set of characteristics. You're all lazy, or you're all here. You're all God-ridden, priest-ridden, and you're going to undermine our ethos and all that sort of stuff. And very similar things that happen today. And the wonderful thing about Govan Hill, I first did the talk that led to this book at the Govan Hill International Festival, and that grew out of a great sort of network of anti-racist sort of organising in Govan Hill. Govan Hill is a place where a couple of years ago, in 2021, we stopped the Home Office deportation van who came to arrest two of our neighbours, people who'd lived in the area for 10 years. And at 6 o'clock one morning, they tried to arrest them, and thousands of people turned out, blocked the streets, and forced the Home Office and the police to release them. And it's that spirit that informs the Govan Hill International Festival, and we wanted to do something that celebrated the contribution that the Irish people had made to, like every other, community had made to the area. And that's what the book is really trying to do, and encourage people to tell their stories of that,
I mean, there are still massive connections between the Northwest particularly and Scotland, and particular areas of Scotland. Do we trace that back? And we'll talk a bit more about why people had to and all that. Do we trace it back to the period where we were seeing large numbers of Irish going to Scotland, or does it predate that?
Well, the relationship between the north of Ireland and Scotland goes way, way back to to prehistory. Do you know what I mean? And also, the Dalriada tribe, sort of from the northeast around Ballycastle, who settled the west of Scotland. They were the Scotty that the Romans described as sort of being hostile to them, and give their name to Scotland. So that interaction has been going on for a long time. That really became very pronounced in the 1800s, I think, though, and you could see it developing very, very rapidly as agriculture developed. It drew in the need of, agricultural labourers, a lot of seasonal labourers travelling to Scotland for the harvest, and then returning for the winter. That was going on for a lot in the early 1800s in particular. That was going on a lot. It then really increased when trade began to really pick up between Derry, like when the shirt trade started in Derry. Its biggest initial market was in Glasgow, and that's why you had the development of a Glasgow boat that started going back and forth, bringing cattle as well as things like manufactured goods and also people, and that was the connection. It was why, there was a particular that was the route that people from the west of Donegal took to get to Glasgow. It was the easiest, the cheapest way in order to travel and get and get work, and that is why there was such a high concentration of people, native Gaelic speakers, and so on. You know, sort of in places like the Gorbals and Govan Hill, and why they were so tightly organised together.
And sort of paint the picture of someone's life in West Donegal. What was their status, and why were they in that position? And what did going to Glasgow offer them? Well,
you see, it's sort of to trace it back. Do you know, one of somebody I quote is a guy called Sivanandan, who was an academic and an anti-racist campaigner in the 50s and 60s in Britain, and as against the hostility that recent migrants from former British colonies were facing in Britain, he said, he coined a phrase. He said, "We are here because you were there," and tracing back that history of why people were in such a poor condition in the west of Donegal, you can't separate that from the influence of British colonialism, the plantation, the forcing of the native Irish onto the worst and most barren and least productive lands, and so on in the west of the county. Forced them then to go and try to look for work. It's just impossible to sustain a family or sustain life in places like Weedore, where my people were from. And therefore you had things like the hiring fairs, which hired people out to work in the Lagan Valley, the much better lands, so it was cheap labour. You had the movement of people into trying to find work in Derry as Derry began to take off and its industry started to take off, and that was that same thing that was pushing people to go and look for work in seasonal work initially in Scotland, but then also manufacturing work when they could get it, and so on. Those were the things. So the two things are bound up. There's a reason why people were pushed. Sort of to go and move away, and also things that were pulling them to places like Glasgow, and it's the same today. Do you know? I mean, you look at the lives, sort of my neighbours, who are from Afghanistan and so on, and and from Sudan. You get into a conversation with them, and there's the reasons why they felt they had to leave, and why they felt that they could maybe get a start or get an opportunity. They might have known somebody in Glasgow that they could go and sort of get a start with, and that was the same pattern with the Irish.
What period does this book cover?
Well, it's a kind of sketch. It doesn't by any means claim to be the comprehensive history of the whole.
Yeah, and I think that's laid out there, isn't it? It's not a definitive history, but it's trying to sketch, sort of the whole history. We're actually working on an update now of a second edition, where we're kind of filling in more of the detail of the 20th century. Do you know what I mean? But it includes, it sort of includes a sort of an overview of the history of the Irish in Scotland, but about my family. But it also includes some accounts, oral history accounts from the local Irish history group that has begun to collect interviews with people, just fleshing out what it was actually like growing up being Irish in the Gorbals and Govan Hill, and that's an ongoing thing. And it's something that's really sort of come alive since we started working on the book, since we published the book. Sort of so many people are coming forward to offer their, saying or interviewing their grandparents, and capturing those stories, and that's it's
a really
so
valuable
important.
thing.
It really is, because I mean, obviously, I'm talking about more recent history, but I would have spoken to people in the past, off and on air, who did go back, who did work in Scotland, and the reasons for why, and it was tough upbringings for them, what have you. But sadly, some of them have passed away now. And did they write it down? Is there recordings of the? It's really important that, especially in this day and age, I think, where it suits people sometimes to rewrite history.
Exactly.
Or weaponize history, or whatever it might be. I think it really is important that we have an accurate view of it.
Agreed.
So I think books like this serve a really important purpose.
Sometimes people aren't encouraged to talk about their own history, or to value it. I think,
the Irish are ashamed of, to a great extent. Afraid to speak out.
I think also
for fear of upsetting someone or whatever it might be.
Yeah, I think there's also a stoicism as well about people. They don't want to draw attention to the difficulties that they went through in the past, or their family went through. They prefer to sort of tell the funny story about the past rather than dwell on things like that. And I think that's a whole lot of those things that I think are very admirable traits in people. And I think, but I do think that there's a really noticeable thing that I find from going around and talking and being stopped by people, now all the time in Glasgow who want to tell their stories, is that I think that there's a real deep pride in Irish people now. That sense of having to keep your head down and being ashamed, I think, has largely disappeared. And I think, especially in the younger generation, and we're talking to school kids. We're hoping to do a project in the local Catholic school where lots of the kids there, and the local history teachers, and lots of the kids there are the sons and daughters and grandchildren of the Irish immigrants, and who are really fascinated about their history and want to record it and want to go out and interview them and capture those things before it's lost. And that's a very privileged thing to be a part of. It's wonderful to see it coming together.
Yeah, and it's interesting hearing talking about the experience of Irish heading to Glasgow. I mean, it's less than maybe about 20 years ago, maybe a little bit more, that I went to work in London, and the hate against the Irish and is it racial, xenophobic? I don't know, but the abuse was horrible. I worked in pubs and what have you, and it was tough. You know what I mean? I wouldn't like anyone to experience in that. All the usual stereotypes, the words F off back home, what are you doing here? You're a terrorist, potato, all the usual stuff. And,
exactly.
I think maybe then when I do interviews about some of the language that's being used against, people coming in the other direction, maybe that's why I'm a little bit more, but quite sympathetic to their plight, because on a poxy little scale, I've experienced that, and it was horrendous. It was so horrendous, it made me sick. Like it literally made me ill to the point I had to come home.
Yeah. I remember that myself. I remember going to London and feeling the same thing myself. And lots of friends sort of grew up through that era. It's interesting. They sometimes say it wasn't until bands like the Pogues came along that you could ever say that you were proud to be Irish. Do you know what I mean? The atmosphere generally was very, very hostile, and especially during the Troubles, that was all mixed up in that as well. Do you know what I mean? And those are difficult times. But as I say, I do think that the generation that's come through all that, still has a quiet pride and is very assured of itself. I think there's very little sense of a deference to Englishness now. Do you know what I mean? I think Irish people in Ireland and sort of when they're living in places like Glasgow, have no sense that sort of they're inferior to the Nigel Farages of the world and those backward looking, narrow, inward looking people. I think there's a much more generous, outward looking, sort of sense of the world that Irish people have now.
Yeah, it's history repeating itself, as I say. And I'm not all woke and all this. Don't get me wrong. I'm only talking from absolute reality. No, but I'm saying I'm not coming from. It's just that the way people would instill fear about the Irish in London or whatever is to sort of say, well, they're all terrorists, or they're hiding guns, or they're they're part of a cell or whatever, and that would tarnish an entire population. But it would be a few different people that wanted you out that would be saying that stuff. Now, I'm not saying that was said directly about me. And then what we see is that now the way you sort of try and turn a whole nation against another group of individuals is to suggest that they're all rapists or they're all, you know what I mean? And it just, I hear that, and I kind of was a victim. I'm not a victim, but do you know what I mean? Now, just finally, you point out this is not trying to be and isn't a definitive history, but you talk of it trying to sort of stimulate families to look at their histories, to capture the richness of Irish life. Talk to me a little bit about that in the South Side. What do you hope to come from this beyond the work that you've done?
Well, we're currently compiling an archive. It's online. The organisation that has published this book is the Govanhill Baths Community Trust. That arose out of an occupation of the baths. We were trying to close the local baths. And sort of, which was a community. It was a community centre. It was a laundry. It was all those sorts of things. And in Govanhill, there was an occupation of it, and it's now turned into a wonderful community centre. And so the Govanhill Baths Community Trust is putting together an archive of people and interviewing people wherever we can, and rolling out projects where we're going to go, as I say, go into schools and places like that and record these stories. And I think it's about preserving them, and it's about sort of seeing things from that from that point of view of what it was actually like. It was a very rich life. I mean, it's wonderful to sit with people and hear the stories about how people gathered, the importance of social life. In Glasgow, they would have things called the rakes, where they'd all gather in each other's houses and on a Friday and Saturday night and play music and have a drink and all that sort of stuff. And the kids were all running around. It was that sense of sort of people wanting to be sociable, and sort of that was the way that they got through things. So it's about celebrating all of that and all its complexity and all its richness, and saying every migrant community does the same thing.
Yeah, and just very finally, have you noticed, though, any change in Govan Hill? It is stated to be, multicultural, strong South Asian communities and what have you, and that presumably at a time, and hope maybe it's still the case, is held up as a beacon of what can be achieved. But obviously, things are changing now. People are becoming more nationalist. There's different influences elsewhere. Is that harmony being disrupted?
Oh, I don't think so. I mean, occasionally the far right try to make inroads into Govan Hill. This is where the festival and everything grew out of. So the resistance to that. They've never been successful, and it's a real tribute to the community, and sort of there's festivals, celebrations of it all the time, which makes the community very cohesive, in spite of the fact that sort of there are so many different people from different backgrounds there. And I don't get the sense, sort of, Nicola Sturgeon is the local MSP. Do you know what I mean? She's wonderful. She launches the anti-racist carnival every year, and very, very proud of the fact of the diversity of the area. And I don't get the sense that nationalism, that Scottish nationalism, certainly as it manifests in places like Govan Hill and the Gorbals, is a narrow nationalism. I think it's actually imbued with that sort of outward looking thing. I think even though I'm not the biggest fan of the SNP, I'd be more a socialist myself, but at the same time, they very much state that they're against this hostile environment that the Tories are trying to whip up against refugees. They're saying we need immigration, and we know that we need immigration, and we're going to welcome people coming to the country. And I think fair play to them for doing it. And I think that's the atmosphere that you feel in Govan Hill these days. Then.
All right, Colm, author of Little Donegal, The Irish in the Gorbals and Govan Hill. Where can people get your book?
You can get the book either through the Govan Hill Baths website, which if you just put in Govan Hill Baths, Little Donegal, you'll find that. And it's also available in Little Acorns Bookshop in Derry, and we're hoping to get it into bookshops further afield in Derry and Donegal over the next couple of weeks as well.
Thank you very much for your time. Have a lovely day. Take care of yourself. That is Colm Bryce there. 086 60 25,000 if you want to have your say.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook and at highlandradio.com. The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, offering low-rate holiday loans with fast approval. Apply online at letterkennycu.ie or in office today.
Enjoy top-notch for less dosh. Camille Thai in Letterkenny is ramping up the spice but turning down the price on dozens of mouth-watering meal deals. Save up to 32% on the Camille app or at camille.ie. For a delicious takeaway, delivery or sit-in Thai, make it Camille. Riverside Retail Park on the Neil T. Blaney Road, Letterkenny.
Did you have a nice time, love? We went for a picnic. Neve pinched my sunglasses, the ones you got me. Freya and Connor had a massive fight. I dived for the frisbee, grazed my knee. Nice one, making me take plasters, Mum. Neve's hay fever flared up, had to buy antihistamines. It started lashing down, but hello, waterproof mascara. And I'm convinced there's Soltan in my hair. Please tell me you got dry shampoo. Best day ever.
Incredible offers all summer long. With you for our perfectly imperfect summer. Boots, with you for life.
The world awaits you. Make that dream your next adventure. Cruise the Caribbean. Sail from Crete to Corsica. Soak in Santorini sunsets. Dine on the shores of the Indian Ocean. Stroll through cobbled streets for hidden gems, or bring the little ones to a magical wonderland. Trust the award-winning Atlantic Travel to guide your next adventure. Step through our doorway to the world. Atlantic Travel, Letterkenny.
Tesco double cream?
Yes.
Cut. That goes for both of you.
Hundreds of prices
cut
at Tesco. Look out for the red Price Cuts logo in store and online.
Shadow de Bois Claire?
Oui.
Yeah, au revoir, you cut.
Oh, sacre bleu.
Terms and conditions apply, subject to availability. Prices may vary in express stores. Enjoy alcohol responsibly.
Donegal play their final group game in the All-Ireland Series this Saturday evening when they take on Monaghan at Healy Park in Omagh. Donegal have already qualified for the preliminary round quarter-finals, but a win this weekend will give them home advantage in the next stage. Join Martin McHugh and Brendan Devaney for full match commentary of Donegal against Monaghan this Saturday from the 6 o'clock throw-in. Live coverage of Donegal in this year's Senior Football Championship is brought to you by Highland Motors in Letterkenny with the all-new award-winning Dacia Jogger 7-seater. Overall winner at the 2022 AA Ireland Car Awards. Available for immediate delivery.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, offering low-rate car loans with fast approval. Apply online at letterkennycu.ie or in office today.
Welcome to the Spa at Orchids, one of Europe's largest spas at the Holyrood Hotel, Bundoran. Discover tranquility in our Japanese-themed garden, boasting 7 treatment rooms, seaweed baths, and a secret garden with an outside hot tub and sauna. Now, let me take you to the heart of Bundoran, where you'll find the Holyrood Hotel Spa and Leisure Centre. Don't miss out on our exclusive midweek hotel specials. More information at holyroodhotel.com.
Have you heard about Charlie's chips? They're made from potatoes that are carefully selected, then peeled, cut, and like everything else at Charlie's in Letterkenny, cooked to order. That's why they taste so good. From 12 right through to 8 in the evening, Charlie's at Pierce Road, Letterkenny offer an extensive menu that includes a great selection of gluten-free options, all available to sit in or take away. The next time the hunger hits, pull into Charlie's.
Looking for a fun family day out? Century Complex has something for everyone this summer. With delicious food at Backstage, hours of fun at Century Play, and exciting new releases coming to Century Cinemas, including Little Mermaid, The Flash, and Indiana Jones Dial of Destiny. Visit centurycinemas.ie for more information.
Harkins Fireplaces summer sale now on. 50% off selected fireplaces. Call 9141 or visit their showroom in Ballybogue and Lifford. That's Harkins Fireplaces for a better choice of fireplace.
Clonmoney Agricultural Show Monster Draw, €100,000 in prizes. First prize a Valtra Tractor A105 High-Tech or a Skoda Kodiaq car. Second prize a Skoda Fabia car or €10,000 plus 8 other cash prizes. Tickets now available online at clonmoneyshow.com or from any committee member. This would make an ideal Father's Day gift.
Are you in Donegal for the International Rally? Why not call and visit Ireland's largest farm toy and model superstore, Tinny's Toys, located on Leck Road, Letterkenny. Open weekdays to 5:30 and Saturday to 5 p.m. You can also shop our entire range at tinnystoys.com.
Now, today is World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. It takes place, as I say, today on the 15th of June every year. It was first established by the United Nations in an effort to raise public awareness about elder abuse. Now, Frank Dillon is Head of Communications and Fundraiser with Alone. Good morning, Frank. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Greg. Good morning to your listeners. Thanks very much for having me on.
Do I have your title correct?
That's right.
Okay,
that's me.
excellent.
Yeah.
Right. And I think for the first, in the first instance, to recognise that elder abuse comes in many forms, doesn't it?
It does, and unfortunately it can. It can come in the forms of financial, emotional, physical, sexual, verbal discrimination. And I suppose there's also the abuse of omission or neglect, where people can just be abuse can form by just not doing anything or engaging with somebody.
And instead of us making advances, your charity is highlighting what it describes as a distressing trend of increased safeguarding concerns that have been witnessed over the past year. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, we've seen an increase in the amount of cases that we've come across, and it's due to us reaching out to more people, but also it's due to the instances and the reasons behind abuse. And we think there's 3 main pillars. It's the loneliness, it's the increased incidence of mental health in older people, which was compounded by the COVID pandemic, and the housing situation, where the lack of suitable housing options for older people, the unfortunate need for younger families to stay in a house with older parents longer can sometimes, unfortunately, lead to levels of abuse. And but yeah, and we need a stronger. The other area is a stronger community, which we also, what happened during the pandemic, that communities infrastructure got broken up, and it's about repairing that and having places to go for people, because the more contacts you make, the easier it is to make and report abuse.
Yeah, I mean, and there's an awful lot needs to be done, because it is in so many different areas, and it's going to be across so many different departments, different agencies. We really need a singular, if we don't already have one, Frank, we need a singular task force or ministerial department or something that will bring all of this stuff together. Because when you look through what needs to be done and the way that the system turns so slowly, operates so slowly in this country, you just wonder, is there, where can we start making positive inroads?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And luckily, look, the HSE have structures in place with safeguarding and protection teams. But with regards to legislation, there is an adult safeguarding bill that's sort of stalled in the Seanad, and this was to establish a national adult safeguarding authority, which would require certain people to make reports, and would really underpin the whole area of safeguarding. Now, there is another bill that's coming it's on the summer legislative programme, but that just deals with safeguarding around the confines of the Department of Health and the HSE, which is some comfort, and it's to be welcomed. But it is, as you correctly say, it's a broader issue, and it needs a broader piece of legislation to underpin it.
And the safeguarding is a broad church, isn't it? I mean, it might be useful for us to sort of break down what we mean when we say safeguarding.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It can have implications for older people, for disabled people, for anyone in our society who's vulnerable and are not getting the service or getting the protections that they need.
Okay, so more information. Where do people get in touch with the loan, or what do you want to part with, Frank?
Yeah, look, we have a national support and referral line for any older person out there, or anybody who works with older people or knows them. We want to get in touch, and we can cover off service areas. We support over 3,000 people in the Greater Highland area, CHO1, as it's known. And the way to get in touch with the loan is quite easy. It's 0818 222 024. A national support and referral line. It's open 7 days a week, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. or check us out at alone.ie.
Yeah, and we as a public and as a society have a huge role to play in all of this as well. Thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate it. 086 60 25,000 is the WhatsApp and text number, or give us a call on 07491 25,000. You are tuned to the 9 till noon show, and we have an awful lot to pack in the last hour, so make sure you don't miss that. Okay. Our next guest joins us on the programme. Now, you don't need the headphones, Brian, just in case they're in any way distracting for you. Brian McElhenney, spokesperson for the Finn Wheelers Cycling Club. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Greg. And
Thank you so
for the
much
invite
for calling in. No, it's great to have you in. Let me just move that a little bit. Right. Okay, we were chatting to you last year looking for a hard shoulder to be added. It's about 3/4 of a kilometre. It's known as McGrory's Brae in Ballybofey. As you come out of Ballybofey, most of you will know that steep incline. And it was a well-organised plan. It had the visuals, it had the getting it out into the media, and perhaps a little bit of success in that regard.
Yeah, well, there's positive news coming our way in regard to that, and some preparation works have actually started. So back in February, there was money allocated for it through the TIA of $1 million. So while that was great and all the rest, we always like to see action. So finally we're seeing action, and we're seeing a plan that works are due to commence in in the autumn, that will actually see the hard shoulder works begin on site.
Yeah,
so that's
and as far
through.
as you're aware, because obviously, is it up the hill or down the hill?
It's both sides, thankfully. So it's just equal risk either way. So like our sort of demand, as there's been called, has been that both ways, because when you're coming from the Donegal town direction, you're having to leave the hard shoulder to go out into the main carriageway. So there's a risk every time you're going from one to the other. So, that's, I haven't seen the plans. They're going to do both sides.
Now, just in terms of, say, for instance, heading in the Donegal town direction, how do we make sure that hard shoulder doesn't become a de facto climbing lane?
Well, that's the thing. The rules of the road apply for everybody. So, it's not going to be a climbing lane. Obviously, that would be in a much bigger job. So what's been done now is a job that's sort of low cost, easy to provide, and it's a hard shoulder for now. I know that the haulage industry are looking for a climbing lane as well, so maybe that's something that will come eventually. But
this is a big victory for this campaign, and it's a common sense victory as well, because an awful lot of money was spent on the stretch of road from the Donegal Road to the bottom of McGrory's Brae, and then you have two hard shoulders that just stop, and we go to a 2-lane with no off run, no nothing, up to the top of the hill, and then we get hard shoulders again. So this just really is a continuation of hard shoulders. The fact that you had to campaign for this at all really is quite remarkable.
Well, it's a pity we had to do that, but the work carried out in 2016 should have included the hard shoulder right to the top. It's high risk, but thankfully they're closing that gap now. And no, we welcome it. It's a positive news story, and I suppose we celebrate that, and we look forward to the actual works carried out.
You'll have to shift that old bike now stuck to the tree.
Well, I think the guys that are cutting the trees may have already done that, but our signs will stay there until the real works begin, because announcements have been made for so many projects over the years, and we're still
But this
waiting.
is an easy one, because the space is there on either side of the road. So that's good news. All right, so hopefully work in earnest starts in October.
Hopefully, and hopefully, like, for the main goal here is cyclist safety, and safety for all road users, but we're looking at it from the point of view of cyclists.
I just think that will make it a little bit safer for all road users.
Yes, of course.
Actually. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
No,
That's good news.
it's a positive. Yeah, so we'll celebrate it. Yes, and I suppose we'd thank everybody involved, be it the TIA, but also our local councillors, Patrick McGowan and Martin Harley, who were there at our launch and have kept plugging away at making sure it moves forward.
Brilliant stuff. Well done. Okay, we'll watch with interest, because as you say, we have to stay on top of these things to ensure. I only have 2 minutes because we're flat out today. I want your views, though, on whether or not we should follow Italy's example, stick number plates on bicycles. Would that be something you'd like to see?
No.
Why not?
Well, it's first
Too
of all
much wind resistance.
Well, that's it. Your aerodynamics will be like, how big of a number plate would you require so it's visible? It's a crazy idea, and when Caroline brought it to my attention, I looked at it. It's already been backtracked on. It's impractical. It's been tried in other countries like Canada and Switzerland. Would have had number license plates on bicycles in the past, but that's been abandoned and rejected. It's impractical. It's logistics.
I just wonder when we see more scooters and what have you on the road, because legislation's going through in that regard, and they will need to be identifiable and will be subject to the rules of the road, and they'll be sharing a space, I'd imagine, to a great extent with bicycles. I just wonder if that might kick things on a little bit, whether one likes it or not, because it'll...
Yeah. No, I think the what was mentioned in Italy is more towards scooters. Like, there has been a sort of big jump in the number of scooters on the road.
The one on the scooter on the M50?
I've seen all sorts of crazy stuff, but I know the intentions are for, safety, but it's just sticking a number plate. Like, it's hard enough to get one on a motorbike, so how do you stick one on a narrow bicycle? So it's all been backtracked. It was a crazy idea, and thankfully it's going no further.
Righty, okay, we'll finish with a recap of the good news, and as I say, fair play to the Finn Wheelers Cycling Club. It looks like hard shoulders on either side of the road will be put in place this autumn up the 3/4 kilometre stretch of the N. What is it? The N. What is that road? I don't know. Anyway, I'll tell you.
Now.
I know it's in my head.
It's in your notes.
No, it's not in my notes. It's in my head. It's the N15.
N15. Yeah, it's a number ahead in my head, but I didn't want to put it out there. Sorry.
Down to Donegal Town. You don't even know the roads.
Oh, we could go in there with our eyes closed at this stage.
I know. Yeah. But anyway, that McGrory's Brae, as most of us know it of. So that's great news. Okay, listen, brilliant stuff. Thanks for calling in with the update, Brian.
Thanks, Greg.
We really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
We'll be back with more after the break.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, with monster loans available up to €60,000 for all occasions. Visit letterkennycu.ie.
At global healthcare company Abbott, you can build a career with a purpose while helping families live fuller, healthier lives. Our diabetes care business in Donegal is an award-winning site committed to the manufacture of life-changing medical devices. We're looking for permanent full-time process team leaders and engineers to become part of our team. Visit jobs.abbott.com/Donegal.
232. 3 simple numbers. But for Audi, they signify more. More innovation and excitement. An invitation to experience progress you can feel. And a shift in mindset to greater expectations. Like the competition edition on the Audi A4 and A5 S-Line models. All part of our 232 range. Discover how progress makes you feel in a 232 Audi. And book a test drive today.
All roads lead to Warehouse Bar and Kitchen, Main Street, Letterkenny this rally weekend. Food and drinks served all day. Late night opening all weekend. Live DJs throughout the rally weekend. Wishing all our competitors good luck from all at Warehouse Bar and Kitchen.
A public participation event for the Ramelton Flood Relief Scheme will take place on Wednesday the 21st of June in Ramelton Town Hall from 4 until 8 p.m. This will be an opportunity for the public to learn more about flood risk to the area and discuss potential solutions with the project team. Donegal County Council and the Office of Public Works are hosting the event and encourage you to come along to have your say. This is a drop-in event, so no appointment is necessary. Find out more at countydonegalfrs.ie.
Right, coming up after 11, Paul's in studio answering your gardening questions. Any questions for him, get them into us as soon as you can. 08660 25,000. We're also going to be giving away €100, one for all voucher with our quiz. We have our contestants, I believe we do. We have Oisin Kelly in previewing a really busy weekend of rallying action. And there's something else, isn't there? Yes. Fabulous live music. That's all on the way in the next hour.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook, and at highlandradio.com.
Okay, it's 11 o'clock, time for a news update, and it's good morning to Donna Marie Doherty.
Thanks, Greg. Good morning. In the UK, a group of MPs has found that Boris Johnson knowingly misled Parliament when he said all COVID guidance was followed at a lockdown party in Downing Street. The former British Prime Minister has already responded to the findings by the Privileges Committee, calling the conclusion of the 14-month investigation deranged. It was recommended he be suspended from the House of Commons for 90 days, but he's already resigned. Donegal ETB and Donegal County Council are in attendance of the first of 6 regional dialogue meetings. These will take place between senior department officials and institutional leaders. The goal is to drive a stronger regional collaboration on some of the major challenges facing the country. Minister for Education Simon Harris welcomed the series ahead of today's meeting for the North West and Western region. Food prices are unlikely to fall where they were before high inflation took hold. It's because of the pressure of legislation, regulation and innovation on Irish farmland. A report carried out by KPMG for the Farmers Journal has found farm production here is at an all-time low, with falling numbers of both farmers and farms. The report found while Donegal accounts for the most sheep farming in Ireland, the county holds the lowest percentage of farmland nationally at 39%. Shane McCrudden has been appointed as the officer in charge of the Kellybegs Coast Guard Station. Ronan McFadden will fulfil the role of deputy officer in charge of the station. Both men joined the station nearly 13 years ago on the same day. Tributes on social media have been made to the pair, wishing them luck in their new roles and praising their work to date. And finally, a status yellow thunderstorm warning is taking place in Donegal and other parts of the West and Midlands. The warning is due to commence at 3 p.m. Met Éireann says there will be heavy downpours, thunderstorms and the chance of hail. That's all for now. I'll be back again with the news headlines at 12 o'clock. Until then, good morning.
Thanks, Donna Marie. Donna Marie taking selfies of herself while she's... What are you laughing at?
Nothing.
I mean, who takes selfies of themselves reading the news?
Me, I guess.
Well, not really. She's videoing it for social media, I presume.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be exciting. Can't wait to see what you do with that. And it was word perfect as well, Donna Marie.
Thanks.
So perhaps maybe you could video all of them?
That's what I was thinking. And we'll have so much content then.
Thanks, Donna Marie. I'll let you get back to it. Thank you very much indeed. All right, let's take our wee short break and we'll be right back.
At Irish Life, we've been helping people make smart investments for over 80 years. For actual trusted advice for your money, search Irish Life or contact your financial broker or advisor. A better life with Irish Life. Irish Life Assurance plc is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland. Irish Life Financial Services Limited is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland. Irish Life Financial Services is tied to Irish Life Assurance for life and pension products.
My apologies, I mistimed that. I was away in the newsroom, and then the noise stopped, and here I am back now. Right, we're going to get in the garden. Yes, bring that to me, Donna Marie. That's what I went in for. Thank you so very much indeed. Right, okay. Where is Paul the gardener? I'm ready for him. Bring Paul in. Come on, Paul. Right, okay. As I say, Oisin, live music, so much more besides coming up in the programme. But now it's time for us to chat to Paul McLaughlin, gardener at Ballochburg Garden Centre. Would you say something so I can get my breath back, Paul?
Oh, hey, I was sitting up there reading newspapers.
I know. Anything
relaxed as anything.
Anything, well, at least someone is. Yeah. Come here, what's the crack?
Crack is what I got. Weather seems to be the hot topic at the minute. Hot being the operative word.
Wow, you're getting worse at the cliches, or better. I don't know. Right, okay. What is the weather telling us? An awful lot of yellow about.
Pretty much. The big thing at the minute is obviously it's very hot and keeping up in the water. But over the weekend now, there's supposed to be sort of heavy showers forecast and stuff like that. So it's very much getting into a time now for potato blight. That sort of real warm, muggy weather is very real prime time for blight. So it's, if you have potatoes sowed, that's good idea to keep a wee eye on them.
Yeah, because the whilst we might see the rainfall, it's falling on very hard, dry ground. That's why we're seeing quite a bit of flash flooding whenever the skies do open, because the ground is not really prepared to absorb it as much as it normally might.
Absolutely. The soil now is really contracted and it's become very sort of hard and compacted, so it's very hard to rehydrate it, I suppose would be the word.
Well, keep talking. I'm not at the microphone. What should we be doing in terms of gardens and flowers as we head into the weekend with the weather changing? Then I wonder.
Yeah, I'll pretty much just keep an eye on it. Actually, there was a massive shower there during the week and actually damaged one of my pots because my gutters at the house, actually one of them had a leak. And the heavy rain came out over the top of the gutter and actually really